The Russia-Ukraine conflict seems destined to enter an even more complicated phase in the months ahead, despite the US and allies' continued ambitious efforts to bolster the Ukrainians. There are no signs of an endgame in the war, unless Moscow is seeking to alter the Western-led system prevailing since the end of the Cold War. Western allies say the war has broken the entire security architecture built patiently on the European continent over many decades. Amid India's balancing act of the war, Prime Minister Modi and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are set to meet in Japan. The meeting on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Hiroshima marks the first in-person talks between the two leaders since the war began. Narendra Modi got on the phone with Zelensky to discuss the situation in Ukraine on multiple occasions after Russia's 2022 invasion. Over the years, India's security cooperation with Western nations has increased. New Delhi continues to rely on Moscow for defense and oil imports. Remember, India has long-standing security ties with Russia. So far, New Delhi has refused to condemn Moscow for the Ukraine invasion. However, last year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi told Putin this is not the era for war. In April, Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister visited New Delhi. For more on this, Oleksiy Goncharenko, who is an Ukrainian Member of Parliament, is joining us live now to talk about this latest development in the ongoing summit. Honourable Member, welcome to the program. What will be Ukraine's role at the summit, and why is Zelensky reaching out to countries in the global south which have been invited to the summit?
Hello, that's very important for Ukraine, this meeting of Big Seven in Hiroshima in Japan, because there will be discussion, and the Russian war against Ukraine is the topic #1 of this summit. And definitely for Ukraine, it's very important to build better relationships and to explain better to global south countries what's going on in our country, because we see that there is a lot of Russian propaganda against Ukraine and trying to justify this absolutely awful, brutal imperial war, because Russia is like a colonial empire, acting like colonial empire and attacking Ukraine. And definitely for Ukraine, relationships with India are very important and we need to build them. So I'm happy that the meeting between our president and Indian Prime Minister is set in Hiroshima.
Honourable Member, let's talk more about that meeting. The Ukraine crisis has featured very prominently in the summit. On the Indian side, the response to this crisis has been also shaped by the traditional relationship with Russia. What is President Zelensky hoping to achieve by meeting Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the summit?
We'll hope to see that India will change its attitude to Russian war against Ukraine, because for the moment, India is abstaining in United Nations. India is increasing its trade with Russia. And today, Russia is trying to avoid sanctions and to sell their goods, first of all, to India and China. And for us, India is the biggest democracy in the world. And we believe that this is the war of autocracies against democracies on the first place. And India is the biggest democracy in the world. On the second place, it is about international order. And if one bigger country can attack another one, that can lead us to a disaster. If the borders can be changed by a brutal force, that can lead us to a disaster. And I think that Indian people realize it very good. So I think that in best interests of Indian people and India is not to support Ukraine as a country. No, I'm speaking about supporting international order. But you can't have international order without respect to international law and without respect to internationally recognized borders. That is the message which I am sure our president will discuss with Prime Minister Modi.
Honourable Member, finally, your president made a surprise visit to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia and also addressed the Arab summit. What do you think? Do you think it was a successful move for the president to actually go to this summit and address the Arab leaders? And do you think he achieved anything from that summit?
The move itself is absolutely right. Ukraine needs to speak with the whole world. Yeah, we have a lot of allies today in the free world, but we need to speak with everybody in the world. And the Arabic countries are very important for us, and they're our good trade partners. So we need to speak with them. Does President Zelensky achieve the goals? Has he achieved his goals? I don't know. We will see it in the future, but definitely it was the right move. And Ukraine is open for dialogue with all countries of the world. That is so important for us, especially now.
Honorable Member Oleksiy Goncharenko, who is a Ukrainian Member of Parliament, thank you very much for talking to WION World today.
Thank you very much.